Huh. You see those now? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So first of all, welcome everyone, and I'm so happy that you're joining me here today. So we're gonna talk a bit about this project I've been working on called Project Fugu. So first of all, my name is Kenneth. I work at a company called Intel. You probably know that company. It's a semiconductor, but we're also doing a lot of software development. And I'm part of the web platform engineering team. So at Intel, I work on Chromium-based browsers such as Edge and Chrome. I also work on standards, especially in the W3C. And as mentioned, I'm also an elected member of the technical architecture group, the TAG, where we are trying to review all new specifications and making sure that the web is a consistent platform. So that is actually a picture from the Mozilla office in Paris. So what defines me is that I really love the web. The web is what got me into working with computers and loving technology. So I always wanted to contribute back to the web. And when I got the ability to do that, I immediately joined and ended up becoming basically a browser engineer and later working on standards. So I think the web is really great because it's the world's only true democratized platform. It's accessible to everyone. It has this worldwide reach. It's also based on standards, which is really important. So there's actually a lot of different organizations that are standardizing these standards, like the WOT Working Group, WhatWG, the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, and IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. It also works on all major architectures, OSs, and form factors, like even foldable phones, tablets, laptops, desktop computers, TVs, and more. And the platform is really flexible. You can design apps that experience that are really app-like, but it can also be book experiences, news, games, etc. And a part of even beyond all of this, there's a thriving open source ecosystem around it with all kinds of libraries and frameworks, etc. But we cannot take the web for granted. If we don't keep on improving the web, it might actually disappear, as we have seen with Flash and other systems. And I think that the truth is that we're actually not doing that great on mobile. Maybe for us who have been using computers for a long time, we really care about the web and use the technologies. But in many other countries, people grow up with a phone and just App Store, and they don't really know this web thing and what is the URL. It's doing pretty well on desktop, but if you want it to stay relevant, the desktop to stay relevant, we need to have apps experiences for the desktop as well. Otherwise, we might end up with a world where everyone is just using iPads or tablets. So a lot of people actually seldom browse the web on mobile phones. There's always an app for that. Or even inside these apps, when they're experiencing the web, it might be inside something like Facebook, which really tries to keep people inside of Facebook. And when you're trying to focus on, as developers are mostly focusing on mobile, and sometimes if you want to take that experience and make it work really well on desktop, it's actually really hard. If you want to do a desktop application, because there's different systems, there's Chrome OS, there's Windows, and even developing for Windows, should you write your application in Win32? Should you use the Universal Windows platform? What about iPad? Do we need to support all these different platforms? Should I do something cross-platform? Should I use Flutter, Electron, Web, Cloud? And it's really difficult and expensive to support all of these. And of course, you cannot do all kinds of applications. So for instance, if your company, maybe you want to do mobile first. So maybe you have a team doing iOS, not a team doing Android. And maybe then you're out of money. So you cannot support all additional platforms. Microsoft came with this really nice piece of statistics that is saying that more than 60% of time spent on a PC, at least on Windows, is actually within the web browser or any web browser. But it's actually more than that, because people are also using applications like Slack Visual Studio Code, which is also based on web technologies and might just become like progressive web apps in the future. So today we're here to talk about Project Fugu. But first, I want to take a little step back and talk about like how we get to this, or like how I got to this, because this is called Web Stories. So I thought like, let me share my story with you. So I actually used to work at Nokia, and actually was heading up a WebKit team in Brazil, in the city of Recife, and also spent a lot of time in Manaus, where they also had a team, and I had coworkers. So we worked on, we started using WebKit and was doing that for some own products. But then Nokia acquired something called Trolltech and the Qt framework, and I started working on Qt WebKit. So we did I was really responsible for like web experiences on mobile. So really wanted to take the web and make it work well on mobile. So like pinch to zoom, nice scrolling, and all of that, and making sites render nice, like enlarging font sizes. So we did a browser, kind of like a demo browser, just to show that this actually worked really nicely on our platforms. And one day, the former head of Mozilla Mobile, a fellow Dane, called me and said, "Hey, your demo browser is becoming the official browser for the Nokia N9. So don't you want to move back to your country of origin?" And I did. And within a year, we created a pretty good browser. It got really good reviews. Actually, it was so popular that after Nokia abandoned it and went all to Windows Phone, a lot of people on my team actually went to work for Apple on iOS Safari and are still there today. But a bit more of history. Like while I was working on this N9 browser, Nokia had this idea, like they really wanted apps for the system. So there was already like iPhones, and there was like Android. And they were like, "Oh, it's really difficult to get developers to write like apps for our ecosystem. So let's leverage the web." And they invented this thing called the Nokia Web Runtime. So they kind of like made this kind of like packaged apps, and then they added their own APIs, but they're really low quality because like they didn't have to go through standardization, and everything just had to happen fast. It was really terrible. Like all the things that I love about the web, with like low friction, but sites being ephemeral, indexable, you can compose content, you can link to a specific part of the app. Like all of that was kind of gone. So people in my team, they really tried to talk a lot about, especially my coworker Lars, is like, we just gotta make like web apps installable. That is really what we want to do. So we actually worked on that and did some good experiences with that. But well, it was short-lived, as Nokia just released this one phone and went to Windows Phone. But then I joined Intel, and they were doing the exact same. They were replicating the Nokia Web Runtime together with Samsung for this project called the Tizen project. So that's kind of like sad. So as part of standardization, they really wanted to standardize this like whole approach, like both the Nokia approach, the Samsung approach, and they joined this working group in the W3C called the System Applications Working Group, or SysApps. But inside of this working group, I met like a lot of like-minded people that also wanted just to make the web installable. So people like Marcos Caceres from Mozilla and Ansi, we were like the initially people like trying to push this. So we decided, let's write a runtime spec. Let's write a spec for like a manifest with all the metadata you need for making something installable. There was other people talking about this idea called navigation controller. It then later changed name to service workers, that allows you to make these apps and actually make them work offline. So all of that kind of came together. But it became like a real like a team effort. Like I worked a lot with Marcus from Mozilla, really working on the web app manifest. I talked with Paul Kinlan, head of the DevRel for Chrome on Android, and he was really trying to push this to Android. And like other friends of mine, like Alex Russell, really pushing this inside of Google, and Jeff Berthoff doing the same in Microsoft, starting out with Manifold.js, which later became PWA Builder. So we got like all of these ingredients together to make the web installable. So today we have the result. It's called Progressive Web Apps. We even have a nice logo. So today you can go to a website and it can actually be installed to your system. And if you launch it, it looks like any other native app. It's really a nice experience. And there's also a lot of work on making this work well on desktop. This is something I pushed for a long time, but initially people weren't so interested, but that has really changed. So here's a very nice screenshot from Chrome Dev Summit, where they're showing like Autodesk, AutoCAD running as a progressive web app, even supporting multiple tabs. So that's a new feature coming to desktop web applications. So I really like this graph by Alex Russell that kind of explains why we're doing this Project Fugu. So the thing is that there are some platforms that are meta platforms like the web, but they only stay relevant if they can keep up with commodity hardware. You don't need to support all the newest features of systems. That's not necessary. But over time, some of these features just become like commodity. And if then like people start creating their apps and their experiences using these features, and if those features are not available, well, then they cannot choose the web. So this is the relevance gap showing on this graph. So we really want to bring that down. But that's not always all, because sometimes you say I want to create an experience that really depends on Bluetooth because it's for an enterprise and they have some devices they need to control. Well, there's web Bluetooth in Chrome today, so I can definitely make a progressive web app using that. But that's not the only thing I consider, because I'm also thinking ahead, like how will the web platform do in 5 years? Will there be other features, commodity features that I would like to depend on, say in 4 years from now? Will those be available? So betting on the web might not always be feasible, because there might be some APIs that are core to experience that are not available. Or you might be afraid that in the future, there might be APIs available in native or in competing product that are not available to you, giving your competitor an advantage. But also, just like there's a lack of roadmap, like you don't know where the web is heading, and that is risk and fear for a lot of companies. All of this amounts to a certain distrust in the platform. It used to be that in Chrome, once in a while, people were really requesting specific APIs, and we got these like one-off APIs like Web USB and Web Bluetooth. It's something I was involved with myself and been promoting. But we really want to fix the whole distrust issue, and this is Project Fugu. Close the gap and regain the trust in the web. So Project Fugu was created by Google, and later it was joined by Intel and Microsoft and others. Actually, I was so lucky that I talked to Alex Russell, who is the technical lead on Project Fugu, and the PM, the program manager as well, Thomas Nadestad, and I got them to take the plane and go and visit our Intel office in Portland and actually convince all my bosses that we should definitely invest in Project Fugu. So we started working in collaboration and even having like bi-weekly sync meetings. So fugu or hugu is apparently Japanese for the pufferfish. Well, this very cute fish, if it gets scarce, it pops up like a ball. But the funny thing here is that, well, you can eat the fish, but it's kind of dangerous because they eat a certain shellfish and bacteria in the water that is toxic. So you need to take a long training in Japan in order to know exactly how to cut it. So if it's not prepared correctly, it's very, very deadly. So we think this matches really well what we want to do with Project Fugu. We want to expose the capabilities of native platforms, bring down that gap, but we want to do it while preserving user security, privacy, and trust, like the core tenets of the web. If we get it wrong, it's like cutting the fugu fish the wrong way. So for instance, if you had something like AutoCAD we looked at earlier, that's a really nice experience, but like a lot of people that use AutoCAD, like my dad, who's designing roads and houses, well, sometimes there's even like regulatory reasons why you cannot have those files up in the cloud. So having access to local files is very, very important. So this is just one of those examples. So we want to create a roadmap, and we want to like make the process for exposing these features to the web faster. So this is like a nice overview of how we're doing this as Project Fugu. It all starts with use cases. So use cases often means that you have to team up with a company, some developers that's actually going to use this feature when it's available. Then you identify the needs, you write something called an explainer. There's actually a document called the explainer from the tag, which I'm a member of, where it kind of explains you how to do that, like what are the use cases you're trying to do, what are the security implications, has this been tried before, what are the different approaches, why is one approach chosen over the others. And then you like iterate, solicit feedback, do some POC, some proof of concept, maybe get it implemented in a browser behind a flag, get it out to developers. Later, you might do something like an origin trial. This is a way in Chrome or Edge where you can get like a token to a specific feature. So though it's not shipping in a browser, you might be able to turn it on for your origin, your website, and actually get live, like to test it with actual users to figure out whether it actually works for you. In the end, we hopefully end up shipping it. Of course, there's a lot of changes going on before that happens. It has now been around 2 years since we started working on Project Fugu, so I thought it would be a nice time to look at what we have accomplished. So we actually just got a new progressive web app called the Fugu Tracker. So if you go to fugu-tracker.web.app, this should pop up. And you can install it and have it as a progressive web app on your system. So you can see it's a very nice overview of when different Chrome releases are being released, also when certain features are shipping, which platform they're on, etc. There's actually a bit of like overview here what the different icons mean. Like you could probably guess that the Android is for the Android platform. But if you see a Fugu fish, it means it's actually shipping or supposed to ship soon. There's origin trial, there's developer trial, which means it's behind a flag, etc. So there's also a timeline, which I find really nice, because you can see, for instance, that when certain things are shipping in Chrome. So it's really nice. You can see, for instance, from Chrome 77, periodic background sync, which was just mentioned in the talk before me, is entering an origin trial. So you can go to this origin trial webpage, get a token, and actually try it out on your website. So today I selected this list of APIs to go through because I thought those are some of the major ones. So manually with DevTools, I removed the other rows. So this is what we're going to look at. So let's start with sharing. So sharing content and receiving shares is really important on the web because web is a very social platform. And the URL, being able to share like URL, what we call a deep link into a specific part of the app is very nice. So I might go to Twitter, I see a specific tweet, and I can actually share that with my mom over like, I can just send her an SMS or like instant messenger. And she can click on it and she'll immediately just see that tweet. Nothing like she has to install an app and then like search for that tweet herself. But like native app, they are able to like share to other native apps or other progressive web apps soon, at least. So with web share allows you to actually share some content on the web with some. So very simple API. You can share like title, text, URL, but also today you can actually also share files. Very, very basic. The other part of it is actually being able to receive shares. So in order to be able to receive shares, you need to be a progressive web app. You need to be installed. If you're not installed, you cannot share to it. It kind of makes sense. Like users, if they can find your app while they're looking on their phones, like installed apps, it makes sense that app will appear in that share sheet instead of like all kinds of different websites they have visited but not installed. So this is part of the web app manifest. So we extended it. Build it on top of the form submission part is already part of browsers. So that allows you to, for a certain installed progressive web app, actually to be shared too. Very nice. This is already shipping today in Chrome and Edge, but we're working on supporting it on more OS platforms. So for instance, I believe they support on Windows now, and there's work ongoing to support this on Chrome OS. So it already works on Android. Another feature we've worked on is accessing contacts. So it's actually a kind of scary feature, but a lot of developers have said that's really important for them. If you're building an app and you just want to like send an SMS or like an email to someone, or maybe like in some countries where you want to use this for like bootstrapping your experience, but really wanted to fix the security considerations. So allowing websites should not be able to select more than like auto select all your contacts. They can say whether they want email, phone number, address, whatever they would like to get that info, but the developer can still say, well, I'm not going to emails. I'm only going to share phone numbers, for instance. So it's very simple. There's some options whether you want to select just one or multiple entries, then what you would like to get access to, like name, email, telephone, and then you just like call navigate.context.select. And for instance, if you're to me, you might get something like this back. So very nice. This is shipping on mobile platforms, but the team is working on a few additions. Something else which I find quite useful, especially on desktop, is this kind of batching. You've probably seen it on your phone, like if there's like an unread message, you probably get a dot. But even on some desktop systems, you even get like a number, like this is how many unread messages or emails you have. So being able to do this for progressive web apps is also very nice. That, of course, also requires it to be installed. Very, very simple API. Just set either a number or just set it as a dot. Some system will not support numbers, and then they'll just use a dot instead. You can, of course, also clear it. So I'm already using this with like Twitter. So I have like Twitter installed as a progressive web app on my system, and it will just like show me when there's like unread notifications. I click on it, they disappear. Very simple API, which is shipping today. It works great on Android. I don't know if it works on Chrome OS. It probably does, but it at least works on Windows. So another API we heard a lot of people ask for was actually something we call shape detection. Like, how do you detect things with your camera? And you can, of course, do this yourself using like maybe TensorFlow JS or all kinds of JavaScript libraries. But of course, like you have to depend on that library, which might be pretty big, but it might also end up not being very efficient because a lot of hardware today actually supports doing this in hardware, thus like saving battery life and being faster. So we worked on exposing this for detecting text, faces, and barcodes. We're currently only shipping barcodes, and that is really, really requested feature. A lot of companies deal with stocks and products, and it's really nice to be able to just take up your phone and unlock it and actually scan things and integrate that in your web experience or intranet apps. Very simple API. As you see on the demo, it's even pretty fast. So it works with all kinds of common barcodes like QR codes. Very simple API. Check if it's available. It's an async API, so here I'm using async await, and then you just give it an image. So if you have like a video stream, well, then per frame you have to give it that image. What you get back is that you'll get back, if it's detected, you'll get back where it is, so you can even like draw on top it, for instance, if you're using Canvas, so you can show exactly where you detected it. So this is partly shipping, as we're shipping the barcode API today. So this is actually also something that my company was involved with. So this is another thing, another feature called keeping the app alive. You've probably run into this sometimes. You found this very nice recipe on the internet. You're using your phone in your kitchen. Your hands are super dirty, and your phone goes like this. It turns off. And now you need to really wash your fingers in order to be able to actually show what like to unlock it again. So we worked on a way to solve this called Wake Lock. So this is actually something I'm the spec author of, and I've been deeply involved with. So there's actually two kind of wake locks, but we're only shipping one today. One is the screen wake lock. It's a very common one. It's like, don't turn off my screen. There's also work on a system wake lock that will kind of like, okay, you can turn off the screen, but don't turn off the processing power. Don't go into sleep because maybe I need to do some work, additional work. Most of these use cases can be solved like indirectly by specific APIs. Like if I'm listening to music on Spotify, like, well, listen to music, don't go into sleep, keep playing the music. But we're also now looking at maybe adding some brightness control so that when you're requesting a wake lock, it might be able to turn up the brightness. That's really useful for something like boarding passes, because if you have very low brightness on your screen, like those barcode scanners in the airport might not be able to read it. Very simple API. Request the lock, and then you can release it. If you switch app, if you turn off your screen manually, it's going to release this lock and you have to re-request it. So this is shipping today, and it actually turned out to be much more popular than I have ever imagined. Another thing we worked on is, or Google has worked on, is one-time passwords. So you probably know all these websites where you get an SMS, and then maybe you need to manually copy it, or sometimes it's copying the whole SMS and not just the number. So it's kind of complicated. So this can be really used. There are better ways for security like WebAuthn today, but this is not always just used for security or like passwords. It can be used for payment confirmation, account recovery, even like phone number verification. So it's actually based on two different standards. One is done in collaboration with Apple. That's the origin-bound one-time codes delivered via SMS. So this specific format, a way you write this SMS so that code can only be exposed automatically in a specific URL, that's website. Then there's the web one-time code or OTC API that allows the website to automatically fetch this code and insert it. So I'm showing a small sample of how to use this here. So the former API, like the one I'm showing first, is only available in Chrome. It's kind of like just call navigate.credential.get, say the transport SMS. And if it gets this code, well, it's async, well, then you can deal with it and use it. The SMS API looks like below. You can write some common text that everyone can read. It could be whatever, but at the end, you need to give an @, the name of the URL, then and then like the code itself. So this is shipping in Chrome, at least on Android currently. Something else I've been involved with, it actually took a long time to ship, was app shortcuts. So I'm sure you've seen this on phones. When you long press an icon, you get like these like quick shortcuts into specific parts of the app. You might also know them from desktops where you right click on an icon. For instance, if I right click on, say, Outlook, it might have like make new, like send, write new email or go to calendar or something like that. So I worked on this, like initially came up with a proposal. Google came with a counter proposal incorporating some of their ideas, and eventually it took Microsoft to actually go and implement it. So it's now available. So very nice. It's an extension to the web app manifest, just called shortcuts. Name, short name, description, and the specific URL, plus some icons. Very simple and very useful. So now I'm going to talk about one of those APIs that I find very, very important, and that is like file system access, being able to read and write directly to files on your system. So today, web apps without this feature, they can open files and then they can like upload it to a server. And if you want like to download them again, it's just gonna like download them. It's not gonna be the same files. Make a copy. So this kind of makes it impossible to create experiences like Visual Studio Code that runs in your web browser. At least if you want to deal with like local files. So this is basically what the file system access API is solving. So I'm showing one example here. I installed a progressive web app called Text Editor, and I here like open two files called test.txt, and I wrote something. And you can see it shows like an icon, so you can see that this feature is enabled. And then I went to another website and opened the exact same file. And as you can see on the screen, it actually is able to read the same text. So really nice. It's also a very modern API, so it works with like streams and the like. That's actually based on some of my feedback, so I think that's really nice. Is one of my friends who has implemented this. Very nice modern API to deal with file systems. But like it's only the bare minimum. So the team is currently working on certain additions. So for instance, if you wanted to implement something like a web torrent client, then you often don't download the file from the beginning to the end. You might start by getting a piece in the middle. So it's nice to be able to like create a file that has the right size and then just like write the data in the right places. Also something like being able to, like when you're saving a file, to give it like a default name, to kind of say like, oh, well, please open in this directory by giving a directory handle, or even like you might have like an app that has like various different areas where you're dealing with different files. Say that, imagine that Microsoft Office was one app, and you have like a Word region of the app and an Excel region. Like the files you work in Excel, you probably want to maybe save in a different place than the files that you're using in the Word part of the app. So being able to like have an ID and have it remember like where you last, what directory you last accessed in each of these areas is kind of useful. So we are like really adding all of these features, and this is all something we've gotten as feedback from people who adopted this feature. So this is getting quite nice. So this is shipping in Chrome and Edge, but we're working on certain additions. So this is something else. This is actually also work done by my coworkers. So this is the web browsers, or like the media capture in web browser already supported soon, but we added pan and tilt. So actually my webcam now, which is a Logitech Brio, it actually supports this feature, as does a lot of cameras used in video conferencing. So you could imagine like a video stream using something like AI, and you would detect like in a meeting room who is actually speaking. And then like that web app might be able to like zoom in automatically on who's talking. So here I'm just like playing around with the app and changing the pan and tilt and zoom, and you can see that it works really well. So if you have one of those modern web camera, you can use this URL and play around with it yourself. So very nice. And this is shipping today. So these are very important features for video chat, video conferencing, like Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, etc. I'm a big fan of hardware, worked a lot on IoT, and as I said, I already promoted Web USB and Web Bluetooth a lot. So, but there's also like other APIs. There's like Serial and something called HIT. So the funny thing is that Web USB and Web Bluetooth are like lower level APIs, but computers used to have this called a serial port. Like you probably, if you're old like me, you probably had that for your mouse and keyboard. But today, like all those serial connections, they just work on top of USB. But the problem is that the operating system, when it sees, oh, that's a serial device, they will claim it, which means that you cannot access it from Web USB. It's actually also an easier API than having to deal with USB manually. So this is quite nice. So we're shipping this in the next release of Chrome. So you can actually start playing around. It's really useful for something like playing around with Arduinos and these IoT boards. They often use serial communication. There's also another similar API called Human Interface Device. So this is actually what is currently used for like mouse and keyboards instead of like serial. And that's like a standard based on top of USB, so it's a bit more high level, but it can also work on top of Bluetooth. And a lot of companies, they kind of reuse that for like, say, barcode scanners, like these guns you can use for scanning barcodes, or for like gamepads. So now we have access to those, or soon, on the web as well. So if you have a gamepad that's not supported by the gamepad API, well, then you can just make it supported quite easily yourself. So another hardware API is NFC, which stands for Near Field Communications. So a lot of phones have this NFC reader inside them. So this is actually something I've worked on myself. So I'm one of the speculators for that. And NFC is actually a collection of many existing standards, different low-level standards. So depending on what NFC sticker or card you got, it might not support all of these because they're from different manufacturers. But the NFC Forum, which is the organization standardizing NFC, they developed this like higher level API called NDEF, which stands for NFC Data Exchange Format, that works across all kinds of different stickers and cards. So this is what we are supporting in Chrome today on Android. So it has very complete NDEF support, I would say complete, and it's also a very easy to use API. I love this picture. This was taken by one of my coworkers because we were showing it to Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who's the inventor of the web, and he was super excited about what you can do with the web. So here I'm also showing a small demo. It was supposed to autoplay, but let me just play it for you, of my friend Francois. I could probably mute it. So he's showing like a game where we'll like show the order of these cards, and you have to tap them in the right order to win. So they're like showing like what you could do with something like WebNFC. This is another demo I did like this shopping list, grocery list thing. Like it's a small progressive web app where you can see like I can add things that I need to buy when doing groceries. I can re-add things. But the funny thing is it has this like right to NFC tag instead. So instead of just adding it to my list, I can configure one of these stickers and I can place them around my house. So say I want to get beer. Or maybe I write something else. I think I write like NFC stickers, to be honest. NFC tags, yeah. And then I just add it and I touch one of these NFC tags. And now that is written to that tag. So when I touch it in the future, it's just going to add that automatically to my grocery list. And you see, I configured a lot of these already. So you can do all kinds of things with this technology. Even a friend of mine was playing around with doing like a small children game, like a treasury hunt. So very interesting. And this is also shipping in the next version of Chrome. Very, very simple API. You just create an NDEF reader. There's an on-reading event. You can also do add event listener. And then like iterate over the events. If you don't want to continue like scanning, well, you can use an abort controller to turn it off. Here I'm doing a bit like more complicated example where I'm looking at a JSON record. I'm also looking at the image record and actually creating a DOM element and inserting that image. But quite simple API. I would say it's much simpler than most native NFC APIs. So if you have any interest, please check that out. So that's kind of like what we've done at Project Fugu this last 2 years, and we're totally ready for the third year. So this is actually the full list I found of what we have shipped so far. So you see there's the web share target, there's even like async clipboard. So everyone who dealt with clipboard, this is very important function. There's things around storage. There's things like install related apps. If you also have like native apps installed, you want to check that so you don't send notification in both a native app and a web app. There's compression codecs, you auto compress stuff like Cibit, a lot of things. But that's not all, because like as you can see, there's already features that are in Origin trial. As the Web Serial and Web NFC, which you can see that they're shipping the next version, which is 89. And you can see, for instance, that WebNFC is supported on Android so far, but Serial is supported. It's not supported on Android, but on Linux, Windows, Chrome OS, and Mac OS. But you can also see there are already other features, like what was also shown today, like the ambient light sensor. It's currently just behind the flag. And file handling. There's even like run progressive web on OS login. So a lot of cool things is coming down the road. If you have a feature that you think is really, really important for you to build your experience, I really would recommend you to go to this URL, like bit.ly/new Fugu request, and just file it. Because then people look at it and maybe we end up implementing it. So here's a few resources. Definitely check out the Fugu tracker. File new request if you need. If you want to like follow what's going on, we have these bi-weekly meetings in the Fugu project. So you can go to bit.ly/FuguSync and read like what people have discussed, what different teams are working on. So very interesting to keep on top of things. So with that, I want to say thank you a lot for listening, and I hope you really enjoyed it.